The knocking wouldn't stop. 3 sharp hits against the door, like someone desperate enough to break their own heart open, before the hinges could break loose. Inside, Gina froze. It had been 5 long years since she heard that voice, but the echo of it still lived under her skin like a scar. "Gina, please. Please open the door." He sounded broken. This was not the powerful man she once loved. Not the man who traded her for a future brighter than her smile. This was the ruin that remained after karma collected its debt. Gina delicately placed her trembling fingers on the door handle. Her reflection in the peephole showed a woman transformed. Stronger, colder, wiser, yet still wounded. She unlocked the door. There he was, Ethan Blackwood, the man who swore love, then chose ambition. Rain soaked his once perfect suit. His tie hung undone like a man who had fought a war and lost. Slowly he fell to his knees. "I should have fought for you," he whispered, voice cracking. "I should have chosen you." Tears streamed down his face as he clutched at the hem of her sweater. "Please, don't shut me out again." Gina stared down at the man she once would have died for. Her heart whispered, "Hold him." Her memory screamed, "Run." This moment would decide everything. Her past, her freedom, her future. But before we reach the answer, we must go back to the beginning of her heartbreak. Gina Rivers was 25 years old when her world first collided with his. She lived in a tiny studio apartment that smelled faintly of coffee and drying paint. Not because she was messy. She simply loved to create. Art was her escape, her oxygen, her heartbeat. Most mornings started the same. She brewed cheap coffee, tied her hair into a sloppy bun, painted sunlight on canvases, because she refused to let darkness win. She believed in color. She believed in love. She believed that life would one day reward the quiet hearts. She just didn't know the reward would come disguised as a beautiful disaster. That Monday began as a race. Her bus was late, her portfolio strap ripped, and to make it worse, rain poured like the sky was punishing her. She sprinted into the lobby of Blackwood Enterprises, where she had a meeting to pitch her designs. Then it happened. She collided straight into someone, a very expensive someone. Warm liquid splashed. Her heart dropped. A full cup of hot latte drenched. A $4,000 tailored gray suit. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. She panicked, fumbling tissues. The man didn't yell. He didn't even flinch. Instead, he laughed. A soft, unexpected sound that made her look up. Hazel eyes, strong jaw, a smile too kind to be real. "It's all right," he said, voice low and calm. "I've had worse thrown at me in board meetings." Her panic slowed. His presence demanded attention, quietly, powerfully. "Let me pay for the laundry," she insisted, cheeks burning. He raised a brow. "You'll pay for a suit worth more than your entire rent?" She blinked. How did he know she lived poorly? He extended a hand. "I'm Ethan," he said. "Ethan Blackwood." Her stomach flipped. The Blackwood, as in the CEO. The man who owned the building she was standing in. And Gina? She had just baptized him with coffee. "I'm fired," she muttered. Ethan chuckled. "You haven't even been hired yet." Their eyes held a little too long. Lightning cracked outside. And somewhere between fear and fate, a story began. She did her presentation, terrified. But throughout the meeting, she kept catching Ethan watching her through the glass walls of his office, like he was studying something rare. When she finished, he approached her again. "You have talent," he said. "And you're interesting." She stammered, unsure if that was a compliment. Then he added, "I'd like to see you again, Miss Rivers." Her heartbeat stumbled. "Professionally, right?" He stepped closer, too close. "We'll see." There was a promise in his eyes. Dangerous. Beautiful. She should have run. Instead, she smiled. Gina didn't know what to feel as she left Blackwood Enterprises that day. Her shoes were soaked. Her portfolio smelled faintly of coffee. And somewhere deep inside, a part of her was thrilled. A dangerous thrill she could not name. She tried to focus on work. She had a freelance project due, a painting of a small sunlit park for a local cafe. But her mind kept returning to him. Hazel eyes, confident smile, the way he carried himself as if the world existed solely for him. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "I'd like to see you again, Ethan." Her stomach dropped. How did he get her number? She didn't reply. Yet that evening, sleep eluded her. Instead, she lay on the floor of her small apartment, listening to rain splatter against the window, thinking, this is impossible. I don't even know him. And yet, memories of his laughter that morning lingered like an echo in her chest. Over the next few weeks, Ethan found every reason to contact her. Emails praising her designs, texts asking for her opinion on minor projects, invitations to meetings that slowly became dinners. Gina wanted to resist. She reminded herself, he's a CEO. I'm just a designer. We live in different worlds. But she couldn't resist entirely. Every time he smiled at her, the world around her melted. They began meeting more often. Not for work. Not really. Coffee became lunch. Lunch became dinners. Long walks through city streets under the glow of streetlights. Ethan shared pieces of himself no one else saw. Nights when he worked alone in skyscrapers, childhood memories of loneliness despite wealth dreams he could not voice to investors or friends. Gina listened, laughing softly, feeling the warmth of someone who seemed to understand her in a way no one else ever had. But danger lingered. Every night, she told herself, he's too old, too powerful, too complicated. This can't end well. One rainy night, as they stood on a bridge overlooking the city lights, Ethan reached for her hand. "Gina, I know this sounds sudden," he said, voice low, "but I think I've fallen for you. Completely." She stared at him, heart hammering, fingers trembling. She whispered, I think I feel the same." He smiled, relief and longing mixing in his gaze. It was intoxicating, dangerous, life-changing. "I promise you," he said, "you're the woman I'll spend the rest of my life with." And Gina, foolishly, believed him. She smiled, leaned into him, let the world around them disappear. No one knew how much that promise would shatter her life later. The months that followed were magical. Gina and Ethan lived in their own little bubble, designing their future home together, talking about children she didn't yet want, but imagined with him, planning trips to small towns, beaches, anywhere sunlight met the water. Gina painted a mural for his office, a field of sunflowers reaching for the sky. Ethan framed it in his main boardroom and smiled at it every day. It felt like fate had finally taken her hand and whispered, "You belong here." But reality, as it often does, waited patiently to crash in. It was subtle at first. A canceled dinner, a late return from work, a whispered excuse she could not entirely hear. Then, one night, Ethan came home unusually quiet. Gina noticed the tension, the avoidance. "Is something wrong?" she asked, heart tightening. He looked away. "It's complicated," he said, and that word, simple, vague, set off alarms in her chest. She didn't yet know that complicated was the first whisper of betrayal. Gina woke that morning with sunlight filtering through her blinds. The rays should have felt warm, comforting, like the life she was building with Ethan. Instead, they felt cold. She had called him the night before, again. No answer. Her fingers trembled as she checked her phone. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. Something in her chest sank. A hollow, aching feeling she tried to ignore. Ethan returned that evening. He opened the door, drenched from the afternoon rain, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes avoiding hers. "Where have you been?" she asked, voice soft but sharp. "Work. Late," he muttered. Gina frowned. The explanation was too short, too rehearsed. "I called, texted, you didn't respond," she pressed. I was busy," he replied, finally meeting her gaze. But the warmth she remembered was gone. It was fleeting, like a shadow passing over his face. Something in her chest tightened. A warning bell she tried to silence. Over the next few weeks, subtle changes made Gina uneasy. Unexplained business trips, phone calls he answered quietly, disappearing into other rooms, moments of staring at her, almost distracted, as if thinking of someone else. Gina wanted to trust him. She did. She loved him. But the doubts, they gnawed at her like rats in the walls. One evening, she decided to follow him. Not angrily, not in rage, but quietly, to see the truth. She trailed him in the rain, heart pounding. To her horror, she watched him meet a woman in a dimly lit cafe. They laughed. They touched hands. And her Ethan, leaned in close. Gina froze. This cannot be happening, she whispered to herself. The betrayal she had feared was finally tangible. It wasn't a rumor. It wasn't her imagination. It was real. And it cut deeper than any coffee-spilled suit ever could. Gina didn't approach them that night. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Instead, she went home, curled in the corner of her apartment, trembling, asking herself the question no one should ever have to ask. How could he do this to me? The next day, she confronted him. Who is she? Her voice was steady, sharper than she felt. Ethan froze. His confident demeanor cracked for the first time. Then he muttered, "It's complicated." Gina's hands shook. Complicated. Always complicated when it mattered most. A word that had become a shield for betrayal. Complicated? She repeated. Is that what we are now? Complicated? Or was I just a temporary dream while you played at ambition? Ethan opened his mouth, then shut it. He couldn't defend it. He couldn't explain it. And in that moment, Gina saw him for exactly what he was. A man who loved the idea of love, not the woman herself. Over the following days, Ethan tried to apologize. Flowers appeared at her door, text messages poured in. I made a mistake. I need you. Late-night calls, begging for forgiveness. But Gina no longer wanted words. She wanted truth. And the truth had shown her a man she couldn't trust. She left for a weekend trip to clear her mind. Sitting on a cliff overlooking the ocean, rain dripping into her hair, she cried for hours. Not just for Ethan. For the future she had imagined with him. For the love that had been stolen before it could bloom. And in that rain she made a decision. No matter how much she loved him, she would not allow him to break her again. When Ethan returned, hoping for reconciliation, she told him clearly, I loved you, I trusted you, but I will not be a shadow of your ambition. You chose someone else, and I cannot follow where you walked away from me. He begged. He wept. He swore he would end it with the other woman. But Gina only nodded slowly. It's too late. The damage is done. She walked away, not running, not hiding, walking with the weight of heartbreak, but also with the first flicker of freedom. The weeks after Ethan's betrayal felt like walking through a fog. Every street seemed muted, every laughter hollow, every sunrise a reminder of the life she thought she would have. Gina didn't want to cry anymore. She didn't want to think about him. She just wanted to exist, to breathe, to put one foot in front of the other. Her apartment, once cozy and full of light, became her sanctuary. She rearranged the furniture. She repainted the walls a warm cream instead of pale blue, the color Ethan had liked. Every small act was a rebellion, a reclaiming of herself. Gina threw herself into work like a lifeline. Her designs were meticulous, her attention to detail unmatched. She took freelance contracts beyond the small town she lived in. She networked relentlessly, meeting people who recognized talent rather than charm. She began creating bold, experimental designs that challenged clients and herself. Her work started catching attention, not from men who offered empty promises, but from those who valued her skill and vision. Her confidence grew quietly, steadily, like a fire burning beneath a frozen surface. During this period, Gina leaned heavily on her few true friends. Lara, a childhood friend, became her confidant. Marcus, A colleague who admired her talent offered encouragement without judgment. They reminded her that betrayal wasn't her fault. They reminded her she was strong. And slowly, the loneliness that had gripped her heart began to ease. Still, some nights, she lay awake, haunted by what could have been. Her mind sometimes drifted to Ethan, imagining how he must be living now. But she refused to let that thought chain her to the past. One morning, Gina walked through a bustling Atlanta street, umbrella in hand, and felt something she hadn't felt in years: pride. She had secured a major contract with a top design firm. The money, the recognition, it was all hers. For the first time, she realized something terrifying and exhilarating. I don't need him. I never did. She allowed herself a small smile. Private victory dance in the rain. This independence became her shield, her armor against heartbreak, her promise to herself that no one would ever break her spirit again. Yet, even as she thrived, the world had a cruel way of reminding her of what she had lost. One late evening, while closing her studio, a familiar voice called out, "Gina!" She froze. Her pulse quickened. Her breath caught. It was not Ethan, but the reminder of him lingered, like a shadow stretching across her bright new life. She didn't turn immediately. She let the moment pass, reminding herself that she was not the girl who ran to him anymore. That night, she went home and planted sunflowers on her balcony. Not for him, not for anyone else, for herself. Months passed. Gina became a respected name in her field. Her designs won awards. Her confidence grew until even the reflection in her mirror seemed like a stranger from the past. And Ethan? She barely thought of him now, except when the sting of memory caught her unawares. Her life, though scarred, was hers alone, and the dark pain of betrayal became the fuel for her rise. The city lights of Atlanta glittered like fragments of broken dreams, but Gina walked among them as if the shards belonged to someone else. She had rebuilt herself from the ashes of betrayal, turning heartbreak into power, despair into focus. Yet the universe has a way of reminding you that some echoes never fade. It had been over a year since Ethan vanished from her life. Officially, he had married someone else, a woman whose wealth and status made him untouchable. Yet whispers of him occasionally crossed her path. A mutual acquaintance mentioning the Blackwood divorce drama, headlines hinting at financial strain, but never personal scandal. Rumors of a quiet man, haunted by regret. Gina didn't chase these stories. She didn't need to, but every mention of his name made her pulse tighten and reminded her why she would never allow herself to be vulnerable again. He lost me because he chose ambition over love, she told herself nightly. And I survived. One late afternoon, Gina attended a design conference. She navigated the crowd with professional grace, shaking hands, offering advice, her confidence magnetic. A speaker's name on the schedule caused her stomach to twist. Ethan Blackwood. She froze for a fraction of a second. Could it be him? The man who had once promised forever, and then destroyed it all? He stepped on stage, older, wearier, but unmistakably him. When he spoke, it was about ambition, growth, and success. His words were sharp, intelligent. Exactly the man she once loved. But Gina noticed something in his eyes. A fleeting shadow of guilt. Not visible to the audience, but to her, unmistakable. She turned away quickly. I cannot let him back in, she whispered to herself. Not even a glimpse. Later that evening, she walked home through light rain. Her umbrella did little to hide her thoughts. She reflected on the love she had given, the betrayal she had endured. It was bitter, yes, but also clarifying. Love should not be a transaction. Loyalty should not be optional. Power should not outweigh heart. Gina realized she had grown stronger than she had ever imagined. Ethan's absence had been cruel, but it had also been a teacher. She stopped at a small cafe, watched people laughing through the windows, and allowed herself a quiet smile. For the first time, she felt untouchable by past pain. Weeks passed. Gina's projects expanded nationally. Her reputation solidified. Opportunities she never dared dream of now lined up at her door. She had friends who supported her, a life she loved, and a career she was proud of. Yet somewhere deep in the shadows of her mind, she knew Ethan's story with her wasn't over. Not because she wanted him back, not because she missed him, but because some betrayals leave echoes. And the echo of him would not die quietly. Ethan Blackwood had it all, or so it seemed. The marriage, the wealth, the title of a successful businessman. To the world, he was untouchable. To himself, he was hollow. For the first few months after marrying Victoria, Ethan convinced himself he had made the right choice. He had gained access to her family's empire, social events, networking opportunities, and public adoration filled his days. But behind closed doors, the marriage was suffocating. Victoria was cold, calculating, rarely offering affection. Every disagreement was a reminder that love and ambition could not coexist in her eyes. He found himself yearning for warmth he had once taken for granted, warmth only Gina had given him. At night, alone in the vast emptiness of his master bedroom, he reached for memories he could no longer touch. Her laugh at the coffee spill, the way she leaned on him while walking in the rain. Her hands soft and certain in his, and each memory was a knife in his chest. Ethan's professional world began to crumble slowly. Investments went wrong. Deals fell through. Advisors whispered about rash decisions. For the first time, he realized the mistake he had made in choosing convenience over love. But it was the small things that haunted him most. Walking past a painting of sunflowers in his office, the same design Gina had made, and feeling a hollow ache. Hearing someone mention Atlanta and imagining her thriving there, far from him. Seeing his reflection and realizing ambition had left him alone, bitter and restless. He had traded a heart that loved him endlessly for wealth that demanded his soul. And he was losing both. Ethan tried to convince himself he could move on. He dated casually, he entertained fleeting attractions, he tried to focus on work. But nothing filled the void Gina had left. Every night, he asked himself the question, what would I have given to go back? To choose her instead? And every night, he answered the same, everything. It had been 4 years since Gina walked away. He had not contacted her, out of shame, pride, fear, and some stubborn hope that she might never forgive. But the emptiness grew unbearable. Victoria's demands became unbearable. The press began questioning his decisions. His advisors whispered about losing touch with the heart that once guided his choices. Finally, one quiet night, he sat in his office staring at a photo Gina had once sent him, sunflowers against a bright blue sky. The realization hit him like a tidal wave. I don't want her back for convenience. I want her back because I love her, because I chose wrong, and I have no one else. For the first time in years, Ethan understood the depth of his mistake. He began searching for her, not to control, not to convince, not for the thrill of possession, but to see if she was alive in the world he had once shattered. He checked professional networks, social media profiles, mutual contacts. And then, finally, he found her. Gina Rivers. Successful, independent, radiant, untouchable. And every fiber of his being wanted her back. But he knew it wouldn't be simple. He had destroyed trust. He had broken the woman he once loved. And the darkness in his soul whispered that forgiveness would be far from guaranteed. He also knew one undeniable truth. If I don't try, I'll never forgive myself. Gina Rivers had learned something crucial. A heart that had been broken could heal, but it could also build walls. Her walls were not made of stone, nor were they cold and cruel. They were carefully constructed, strong enough to protect, yet transparent enough for her dreams to shine through. By now, Gina had become a rising star in the design world. Her projects were no longer small commissions. They were nationwide campaigns. She had mentors who recognized her talent and offered guidance. She taught herself to negotiate, to speak with confidence, to never shrink for anyone. Evenings were her favorite time. She would light candles in her apartment, pour herself a glass of wine, and look at her sunflowers growing on the balcony. They were a reminder. I faced the light no matter the storm. She had learned the hard way that love could betray, but self-reliance never would. Lara and Marcus remained by her side. Lara, the loyal childhood friend, often reminded her of her worth. You don't need anyone to complete you, Gina. You are enough. Marcus, the quiet colleague who respected her brilliance, offered support without expectation. Gina leaned on them not because she was weak, but because she had learned to value true connection over empty promises. Evenings spent laughing and sharing stories with them became small islands of joy. She realized the warmth she craved did not have to come from a man. It could come from the people who genuinely cared. It was during a design showcase in Atlanta that she first felt the ghost of her past stir. Someone in the audience mentioned a Blackwood Enterprises merger, and her ears caught the familiar name, Ethan Blackwood. Her chest tightened, but she forced herself to focus on the stage. It was tempting to let curiosity pierce her armor. But she refused. Not today. Not ever again. Still, deep in the pit of her stomach, she knew Ethan's story with her wasn't over. It would not end quietly. Weeks later, Gina returned home from a long day. There was a small envelope on her doorstep, plain, unmarked. She picked it up. Her hands shook. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Gina, I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I know I cannot ask for it. But I need you to know. I was wrong. I lost the only woman I ever loved. Ethan. Gina read it once, then twice. Her chest felt tight, but not with longing. With anger and sorrow, yes, but also with resolve. She folded the letter neatly and placed it in a drawer. She would not respond. She would not allow her heart to be toyed with again. That night, she walked on her balcony, listening to the quiet hum of the city below. The sunflowers swayed gently in the breeze, and she thought, I am alive. I am whole. I am mine. Her life was her own, and she had no intention of giving it to anyone who had once shattered it. The ghost of Ethan lingered in her mind, but she refused to let it dictate her present. She had survived betrayal. She had grown, and she had learned. The strongest walls are not prisons, they are protection. Ethan Blackwood had reached a point he never thought possible. His wealth, power, and status could not shield him from the emptiness inside. The thrill of acquisitions, the praise of colleagues, the luxury cars and lavish parties, all of it felt hollow. The one thing he had taken for granted, the one woman who truly loved him, was gone, and she had no intention of returning. Started quietly, Ethan noticed the absence of joy in his life. Sleep no longer comforted him. The office felt colder, the walls taller, the nights longer. He began to realize what he had lost. Gina Rivers had been more than love. She had been his compass, his warmth, his home. Now he wandered through life like a ghost in a gilded cage. One rainy evening, unable to resist any longer, Ethan sent a message to a mutual acquaintance. I need to know where Gina is. Can you help me? The acquaintance hesitated. Ethan, you hurt her deeply. Are you sure this is wise? I don't care. I need to see her. This was the beginning of his slow, desperate attempt to return. Every step was tainted by guilt, shame, and fear of rejection. He couldn't erase the past. He couldn't undo the pain he had caused. But he could try, even if the attempt seemed impossible. Late at night, Ethan sat alone in his penthouse, staring at the city below. He recalled the small details. The way she laughed when coffee spilled on his suit, the sunflowers she loved, her soft, unwavering belief in him. And he understood the devastating truth. I destroyed the one woman who made me whole. His heart ached in a way money could never soothe. Even Victoria, with all her status and charm, could not fill the void. Even accolades and deals could not replace her warmth, her loyalty, her love. Ethan realized painfully that some choices leave permanent scars, and his choice had left the deepest one of all. Despite the emptiness, despite the fear, Ethan began planning. He tracked her professional updates carefully. He watched her social media, noting her accomplishments. He consulted friends who could locate her, discreetly. But he was careful. I must tread lightly. One wrong move and she will never forgive me. He rehearsed apologies in his mind, phrases that could convey his deep remorse without sounding manipulative. Yet every rehearsal felt inadequate. He knew the risk. She might reject him immediately, she might expose his desperation to the world, she might never speak to him again. But he also knew the truth that kept him awake at night. If I do not try, I will live with regret for the rest of my life. Ethan made a cautious call to a friend who had connections in Atlanta, hoping to reach Gina. The answer was blunt. She doesn't want to hear from you. She's thriving without you. Leave her alone. Ethan's chest tightened. The world seemed smaller, darker, heavier. He had underestimated the consequences of betrayal. He had underestimated Gina. He had underestimated how strong she had become. Yet even as he hung up the phone, he resolved, I will go to her. I will see her. I will apologize. I will not leave until she hears me. Gina Rivers had transformed completely. She was no longer the young, uncertain girl who had spilled coffee on a CEO's suit. She was a woman who walked through life with a steady gaze, aware of her worth, unafraid of the world. Her apartment was filled with sunlight and life. The balcony sunflowers stretched tall, vibrant, a reflection of the woman who tended them. Her work had brought recognition, respect, and a sense of purpose she had never dreamed of. For the first time in years, she felt truly untouchable. Gina's mornings were quiet and deliberate. Coffee brewed to perfection, a long walk through her neighborhood, breathing in crisp air, reviewing her newest design projects. She met deadlines, negotiated contracts, and spoke with confidence in meetings. No one could intimidate her because she had been broken before, and she had survived. Evenings were her sanctuary. She spent them reading, painting, or sharing laughs with Laura and Marcus. For her, happiness no longer depended on anyone else. It was her own creation. It was a rainy Thursday evening when she noticed something strange. A car parked a little too long near her building, a man lingering at the cafe across the street, staring. Her pulse quickened, but she shook it off. I'm imagining things, she told herself. I won't let anyone disturb my peace. Still, the feeling persisted. A shadow at the edge of her perfect life, a whisper of a past she thought she had buried. Gina confided in Laura over dinner. They're everywhere, she said, voice low. People from the past, reminders. You think you're free, and suddenly you're not. Laura reached across the table. Gina, you are strong. You survived him. You survived everything. Nothing can shake you now. Marcus nodded in agreement. Exactly. Don't give him power over your peace. You're unshakable, Gina. Gina smiled, but inside, a small knot of anxiety lingered. She knew someone from her past was returning. The question was how much of her life he would disrupt. Ethan had been tracking her life for months. Every achievement, every movement, every fleeting smile, he had seen it. And now, finally, he was close. He had found her address. He had rehearsed his apology. He had planned the exact words to express the regret that had haunted him for years. But he also knew the risk. One wrong move and she'll never forgive me. One wrong word, and I'll lose her forever. That night, rain soaked his expensive coat as he parked across from her building. He stared up at her balcony, and for the first time he truly understood the weight of what he had lost. Gina's balcony light shone brightly against the dark sky. She tended to her sunflowers, unaware of the storm brewing just across the street. Ethan's car engine hummed quietly. Every second brought him closer to the confrontation he had imagined for years. Inside, Gina smiled softly to herself, feeling untouchable, invincible. Little did she know, the ghost of her past was about to knock, and the choice she would make that night would define her life forever. The rain fell in sheets that night, pounding the pavement and drumming against Gina's windows. She had spent the evening quietly, reading by candlelight, sipping wine, tending to her sunflowers. Her life was calm, her heart guarded, her mind sharp. And then the knock came. 3 sharp raps, insistent, desperate. Gina froze. Her first instinct, ignore it. The second rap came faster, almost frantic. Her stomach tightened. Her pulse surged. She crossed the room slowly, every step deliberate, every muscle tense. She reached the door. Peering through the peephole, she saw him. Ethan Blackwood. The man who had promised her forever and walked away. The man who had married another while she rebuilt herself. The man who had shattered her heart. And now he was kneeling in the rain. He lifted his eyes to meet hers through the peephole. The suit was soaked, his hair plastered to his forehead. But it wasn't his appearance that struck her. It was the raw, unfiltered regret in his eyes. I know I don't deserve this, he said, voice cracking. But I had to see you. I had to tell you I was wrong. I chose wrong. And I lost you. Gina's hands trembled. Her heart whispered, reach for him. Her mind shouted, no, never again. The rain plastered his clothes to his body, making him look smaller, weaker, human. A man who had once been untouchable now appeared broken before her. She opened the door just a crack, enough to see him fully. Ethan, she said, voice cold, measured, like ice over fire. You're here. You've come back. But you need to understand something. He nodded, eyes glistening. I do. I know I have no right, but I had to try. I had to tell you. Tell me what? She asked, stepping back. Tell me you made a mistake? That you regret hurting me? That you want to undo 5 years of betrayal? Yes, he whispered. All of it. Every day I've lived with it. Every day I've regretted letting you go. Gina looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw the man who had abandoned love for ambition. The man who had broken her heart. And the man who now, humbly, begged for what he had lost. For a long moment they simply stared. Rain dripping from his hair, her sunflowers swaying in the wind, the silence between them filled with years of pain and betrayal. You think I'd forgive you? She asked, voice soft but sharp. After everything you did? Ethan shook his head. No, I don't expect forgiveness. I only wanted you to know the truth. I wanted you to see that I'm broken without you. Gina's chest ached. Her mind screamed. Part of me wants to reach for him, but the pain was stronger than longing. No, she said finally, voice firm. I loved you once. I trusted you once. But I will not let you destroy me again. I am not the girl you left in the rain years ago. I am mine. And you chose your path. Not mine. Ethan's shoulders slumped. Tears mingled with the rain on his cheeks. He had begged, pleaded, and now faced the inevitable truth. Gina stepped back, shutting the door gently but firmly. He stayed in the rain for a moment, staring at the closed door, knowing he would never cross that threshold again. And then he walked away, slowly, quietly, a man defeated not by the world, but by the choices he had made. Gina leaned against the door, listening to the rain. Her heart, though still aching, felt lighter. She had survived. She had won. She had protected herself. And in that darkness, she smiled. I am whole. I am free. And I am stronger than the man who tried to break me. A week after the confrontation at her door, Gina found another envelope slipped under her apartment door. This one was heavier, thicker, a carefully written letter. She hesitated before opening it, hand trembling. Inside was not a casual apology, but a confession. Every mistake he had made, the emptiness he had felt without her, the regret that had haunted him for years, how he had changed and why he now understood love differently. The words were raw, honest, and painfully humbling. For the first time in years, Gina felt the familiar ache in her chest. The ache of love, still alive but cautious. He is truly sorry, but can I ever trust him again? She folded the letter carefully and placed it on her table. It was a bridge, a small opening in her fortress, but she would not cross it lightly. Over the following weeks, Ethan did not demand attention or forgiveness. Instead, he acted quietly. He donated anonymously to a cause Gina supported. He discreetly helped a colleague of hers in a professional crisis. He left small, meaningful notes, never expecting a reply. Gina noticed these gestures. She felt the pull of curiosity, tempered by years of pain. Is this real, or is it another game? Her friends noticed her distraction and warned her. Don't let the past fool you. He hurt you once. What's to stop it from happening again? But Gina also realized something subtle. Ethan's efforts were consistent, selfless, and unlike anything he had done before. Months later, fate intervened. At a charity art gallery showcasing rising designers, including Gina's latest project, she noticed him across the room. Ethan stood quietly, respectful distance, eyes filled with genuine remorse. For the first time, they spoke without tension escalating into anger. "Gina," he said softly, "thank you for allowing me to be here. I just wanted to see you, to show that I've tried to make amends." She studied him carefully, searching for deceit, but found none. Could the man who shattered her heart truly have changed? Later that evening, they spoke more openly. Ethan shared his life without her, the hollow victories of ambition, the loneliness he had endured, how he had finally understood the value of trust and love. Gina listened, heart clenching. Every word he spoke reflected pain, humility, and transformation. "I do not expect your forgiveness," he said, voice breaking. "I only hope you see that I am no longer the man who abandoned you." Tears stung Gina's eyes. The anger, the betrayal, the heartbreak, all still present, but now intertwined with hope, curiosity, and lingering love. Gina did not immediately forgive him. She tested him. Boundaries were set, emotional distance maintained, patience demanded. Ethan accepted everything, never pushing, never forcing. He showed his love through actions, respect, consistency, and transparency. Days became weeks, weeks became months, and slowly, the walls Gina had built began to show cracks, not from weakness, but from careful, deliberate trust. The first shared moments of true happiness returned. Late-night walks, free of tension, honest laughter, small jokes they once shared. Working together on a project, their synergy undeniable. Each moment proved that love, once broken, could be rebuilt stronger, but only with effort and patience. Gina began to feel that maybe, just maybe, this second chance could be real. Not everything was easy. Past complications from Ethan's marriage lingered. Business pressures and social scrutiny tested their bond. Temptations and insecurities arose. But every time a shadow loomed, Ethan faced it head-on, proving he was no longer the man who ran away. Gina, too, faced her fear, learning that forgiveness is not weakness, but strength. Finally, one evening, under a canopy of stars, Ethan knelt before Gina. This time not desperate, but genuine. "Gina," he said, voice steady, eyes unwavering, "I do not ask you to forget. I ask only that you see me as I am now, and let me prove my love every day. I choose you, always." Gina paused, tears flowing, heart racing. She realized she had already been witnessing this truth in his actions, patience, and presence. "I can forgive. I can love again." And she said it, yes, a second chance. But only if you keep proving it every day. The sun rose over Atlanta, warm and golden. Gina and Ethan walked side by side, past scars healed but not forgotten. They had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and despair. But now, they faced a shared future, wiser, stronger, and unshakable. Love was not simple. Forgiveness was not instant, but both were real. In the quiet moments that followed, Gina looked at Ethan. No illusions, no games, only love built on honesty, patience, and effort. She realized that pain had shaped her, but redemption had freed her. "I am whole. I am free. And love can heal, even after darkness." They embraced, not for escape, but for connection. Two hearts scarred, yet ready for a lifetime together. The storm had passed. The past had shaped them, but the future was theirs. If you are new here and you love the story of Ethan and Gina, please subscribe and like so you can get more beautiful love stories like this that gives us a reminder that at the end love always wins.